everybody, welcome back to my channel, sushidragonmasters, and today I'm going to do my October wrap up. So, it's already November, but I'm always late to these things. I mean, I try to do them like really close to when the month starts, but that doesn't always happen. So, we're doing it now. So, in October, I read 5 books, which is better than last month, which I only read 4. So now I'm going to get into all the books I read and what I thought of them. The first book I finished in October was Dreamland by Sarah Dessen. I gave this a 2.5 out of 5. This is about a girl named Caitlin, and her sister has just ran away pretty much, but her sister's also an adult, so I guess she can leave whenever she feels the need. And then she meets this guy named Rogerson, and things start out okay, but then they start to go in a direction she didn't expect. Now, the reason I gave this a 2.5 out of 5 is, I mean, first of all, it wasn't really what I was expecting from a Sarah Dessen book. Typically, I expect like a fun story where people overcome things and then are happy in the end, but that's, I mean, yeah, that's kind of what happened, but like, typically the romance part of it is very slow and it doesn't work out until the end, and it was a little different with this one just because of the plot and stuff. And just because I wasn't expecting that, that did take a little bit of the enjoyment out. And also the fact that the writing in this book isn't as good as the writing in her more recent books. And I do see that more as like a sign of improvement. Like, had this been the first book I read of hers, I probably wouldn't have seen a problem with the writing. But since it isn't, I do see it. This is one of her more earlier books. It came out in 2000. I was very young then. I probably couldn't even read. Actually, I couldn't because I was like 1. But yeah. So that is Dreamland by Sarah Dessen. The next book I read was An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. This is about a girl that I believe her name is Leia. That's how I was saying it, but I also heard someone say Laia. But I said Leia because I can't pronounce anything, so I just went with a pronunciation and stuck with it throughout the whole book. I probably was wrong though. And it's also about a boy named Elias, and they're both living like totally different lives, and then they meet in unexpected circumstances, but they kind of are expected if you've read the book. And stuff and things and death. I don't want to talk too much about it because spoilers might come out of my mouth, and we don't want that. I gave this book a 4 out of 5. It was really good, and I'm really excited to read the sequel. I don't know if I'm going to do it soon, but I am excited to do that. Then I read the Prodigy graphic novel, and I gave it a 4 out of 5. I'm starting to question my decision for that because I loved it so much. It was so good. I don't know why, but I love reading the Legends series as graphic novels, and I think I like it more than reading the actual books. No, it's probably terrible, but these things are just, I love them so much. Then I read Out of Sight, Out of Time by Ali Carter. This is the 5th book of the Gallagher Girls series. I constantly have to look at the spine because I never remember what number I'm on. I gave this a 4 out of 5, which, you know, big shock. It's not like I've given every other book in this series a 4 out of 5. It is a very 4 out of 5 series. Like, it's really good, just not the greatest. But it's great, just not the greatest. And I love it. And it's fun. And this was the 5th book, so I can't really go into plot. But it was fun. But also suspenseful. But fun. And Zach. The next book I read was A Walk to Remember by Nicholas Sparks. This was a reread for me, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 again. It's still my favorite book of all time. I still love it. I don't know how to explain it without just telling you the whole entire story, so I'm not going to go into that. But I recommend it to everyone. Like, this is the one book that if I had to make everybody read a book, it would be this one. And the last book I read was Replica by Lauren Oliver. I was really excited for this book. It sounded really cool. I couldn't wait to read it, and then I read it, and I gave it a 3 out of 5. I mean, the story is interesting. It's a very interesting story, and after finishing it, I do kind of want to know what happens next, but I had some problems with it. Like, I kind of assumed that it was like 2 different stories that sort of connected in a way, which I guess it was, sort of. But when the characters were both at the same place at the same time, and their perspectives were just kind of mimicking each other, and I would kind of, after I read it in one perspective, I would just kind of skim through it in the other perspective, because it really just felt like the same person talking. And also, I don't think third person really worked for this book. I really feel like it should have been in first person, because then the characters could have had more individual voices. Because I feel like with third person, it is kind of hard to make each perspective feel different. And this just kind of is a good example of that. And there were so many errors in here that, like, if this were her first book, I would have completely just, like, overlooked it and not thought about it. But since this is like her 5th book, I think, might be her 6th book, something like that. She has written a lot of books before this one. I think you should know not to make the simple mistakes that were made in here. Also, whoever her editor is did not do a good job at looking over this and being like, hey, you just called that person the wrong name. So, yeah. So, that was all the books I read in October. Comment down below and let me know what you read this month, or if you read any of the books I read, and what you thought of them. Did you agree? Did you disagree? Don't forget to subscribe to find out what I'm reading next month, and I will see you guys next time.